welcome back to Whispers in the Dark. Tonight, we are going down into the part of the house where children are never supposed to go. This is a story about a locked door, a mother with a smile that never reached her eyes, and the soft, wet crying sound that a little girl mistook for a puppy. So turn the lights low, listen carefully, and whatever you hear beneath your feet, do not answer it. The house on Blackpine Lane was the last house before the woods swallowed the road. It sat crooked at the edge of town, with black gutters full of pine needles and windows that reflected the sky like blind eyes. In summer, weeds grew tall around the porch until they brushed the steps like fingers. In winter, frost gathered on the inside of the glass, making every room look as though it had been breathing cold air through clenched teeth. People in town called it the Mayhew House, though they rarely said the name out loud when anyone from the family was nearby. The Mayhews had lived there for years. First, there was Carl Mayhew, who worked nights at the slaughterhouse and came home smelling of metal, smoke, and something sour that never washed out of his clothes. Then there was his wife, Elise, a thin woman with pale yellow hair and a voice so gentle it made adults uneasy. She volunteered at bake sales, brought casseroles to funerals, and smiled with perfect warmth at anyone who looked too closely. And then there was their daughter, Leela. Leela Mayhew was 7 years old when she first heard the puppy in the basement. She was small for her age, with knees always bruised from climbing trees, dark curls that would not stay brushed, and eyes too observant for the comfort of the adults around her. She collected broken things: bottle caps, dead moth wings, cracked marbles, bird bones, little treasures she kept in an old cookie tin beneath her bed. Her mother told people Leela had an imagination. An active one, Elise would say, with a tight little laugh. Always hearing things, always inventing stories. But Leela knew the difference between imagining and hearing. She heard the pipes groan at night when the heat came on. She heard mice scratch in the pantry walls. She heard her father coughing into the kitchen sink after work. A deep, choking cough that sounded as if something inside him wanted out. And one rainy evening in October, she heard something underneath the floor. It happened while her mother was making dinner. The kitchen smelled of boiled carrots, onion, and the heavy, greasy scent of meatloaf. Rain tapped at the windows. The light above the sink flickered every so often, making the room twitch between yellow and gray. Leela sat at the table with her coloring book open in front of her, filling in the sky around a princess castle with a black crayon. She did not like blue skies. Blue skies looked false to her, like a promise adults made when they wanted you to stop asking questions. Her mother stood at the counter, chopping celery with quick little knocks of the knife. Then Leela heard it, a thin sound, a whimper. She lifted her head. At first, she thought it was the wind dragging itself through the cracks around the back door. But then it came again, softer this time, trembling upward from beneath the floorboards. Not a word, not quite. A small, pleading noise. Leela looked toward the basement door. It stood at the far end of the kitchen beside the pantry. It was painted white like all the other doors in the house, but unlike all the others, it had a brass deadbolt fitted high above the handle. The paint around the lock was scratched. The door itself seemed swollen in its frame, as if the dark behind it was pressing outward. No one went down there except her mother. Sometimes her father too, but only late at night, when he thought Leela was asleep. The sound came again. Leela's heart gave a little leap. "Mommy," she said. Elise did not turn around. "Yes, baby. Do we have a puppy?" The knife stopped. The rain kept tapping. Elise stood very still, one hand resting flat on the cutting board, the other holding the knife above a pale green crescent of celery. "What did you say?" Leela pointed toward the basement door. "I hear a puppy." For several seconds, her mother did not move. Then she turned slowly, wearing an expression Leela had never seen before. It was not fear exactly. It was not anger either. It was something that looked like both had been stirred together and hidden beneath a smile. "There is no puppy," Elise said, "but I hear it." "No," her mother said, a little too quickly. Then softer, "No, darling. That is just the house. It sounds sad. The house is old. Can we see?" Elise's smile widened. "No." The word was quiet, but it landed in the room like a plate shattering. Leela lowered her crayon. The whimper came again. This time it sounded longer, wetter, like someone trying to cry with a mouth full of cloth. Elise crossed the room so fast that Leela flinched. She crouched beside her chair and took both of Leela's hands. Her fingers were cold and smelled like onions. "Listen to me," Elise whispered. "The basement is not for children. It is dirty down there. There are nails and broken glass and rats. Rats, big ones." Leela glanced at the basement door. "But the puppy, there is no puppy." Her mother squeezed her hands until the small bones pressed together. "Say it, Leela." Leela swallowed. "There is no puppy." "That's right." Elise kissed her forehead, and her lips were dry. Then she stood, went to the pantry, and took down the blue tin where she kept the good cookies. The ones with chocolate in the middle. The ones Leela was only allowed after church, or when company came, or when her mother wanted her to be quiet. Elise placed one on a napkin and set it in front of her. "Eat your cookie," she said, "and do not talk about the basement again." Leela stared at the cookie. The little sound came once more, faint beneath the floor. Elise leaned down until her mouth was near Leela's ear. "Never go down there," she whispered. Then she went back to chopping celery. That night, Leela dreamed of puppies with human teeth. She dreamed of the basement door breathing in and out. She dreamed of a small shape curled in the dark beneath the stairs, scratching at the concrete with fingers that had no nails. When she woke, her room was black except for the thin gray square of the window. Rain still whispered against the glass. For a moment, she did not know what had woken her. Then she heard it again, not through the floor this time, through the vent beside her bed. A soft, broken noise rising through the metal grate. Leela sat up. Her blanket slid into her lap. The house around her slept with its usual creaks and sighs. Down the hall, her parents' bedroom door was closed. Her father snored in short, violent bursts. Her mother never snored. Her mother slept as quietly as a doll. The sound from the vent changed. It became almost like a word. Ma. Leela held her breath. The vent was a rectangle cut into the wall near the floor, painted over so many times that the screws had disappeared under thick white lumps. She climbed out of bed and crawled toward it. The carpet was cold against her knees. "Puppy," she whispered. Silence. Then from deep below came a scraping sound. Metal against concrete. Leela put her cheek to the vent. The air smelled wrong. It smelled like damp stone, old pennies, rotten milk, and the time she had found a dead squirrel behind the shed in July. She jerked back, covering her nose. A floorboard creaked in the hallway. Leela froze. Her bedroom door opened. Her mother stood there in her nightgown. The hallway light behind her made her face impossible to read. She looked tall and thin and white, like something cut from paper. "What are you doing out of bed?" Leela scrambled back under the covers. "Nothing." Elise stepped inside. Her bare feet made no sound on the carpet. "Were you talking to someone?" Leela shook her head. "No." Her mother came closer, and with each step, the smell from the vent seemed to retreat, as if even it was afraid of her. Elise sat on the edge of the bed. She touched Leela's hair. "You are my good girl," she said. Leela nodded. "Good girls stay upstairs." Leela nodded again. "And good girls do not listen at vents." The room went very cold. Leela looked at her mother. Elise smiled. "Go to sleep." She tucked the blanket under Leela's chin, tight as bandages, then leaned down and kissed her cheek. Before leaving, she turned toward the vent. For one moment, her smile vanished. Then she left the room and closed the door. The next day, Leela found the basement key. She was not looking for it at first. She was looking for glue. Her school project was due Monday. A paper plate owl with dried leaves for feathers. Her mother kept glue, scissors, tape, and ribbon in the junk drawer beside the telephone. Leela was digging through it when she saw a small brass key tied to a length of red yarn. It lay beneath old batteries and twist ties, dull and ordinary. But Leela knew what it was. She had seen her mother use it once, late at night, when Leela had crept to the top of the stairs after hearing footsteps. Her mother had stood in the kitchen wearing a blue robe, her hair loose down her back, holding that red string in her teeth while she unbolted the basement door. Leela remembered the way the door had opened, not with a creak, with a sigh, She stared at the key. Outside, wind dragged brown leaves across the porch. Her father was at work. Her mother was in the laundry room humming to herself, feeding wet clothes into the dryer. The house seemed to lean toward Leela. The puppy sound had not come that morning. That made it worse. Leela slipped the key into the pocket of her dress. Her hands shook so badly that she dropped the glue bottle twice before carrying it back to the table. All afternoon, she waited. She listened to her mother move through the house. She listened to the dryer buzz. She listened to the old refrigerator click and hum. Every few minutes, her fingers found the key in her pocket and rubbed its teeth until they hurt. When evening came, her mother made tomato soup and grilled cheese. Leela ate without tasting. Elise watched her from across the table. "You're quiet today," her mother said. Leela shrugged. "School tired me." Elise tilted her head. There was ketchup red soup on her spoon, but she did not bring it to her mouth. "Did you have a good day?" "Yes." "Did you tell anyone stories?" Leela looked up. "What stories?" "Any stories about the house, about noises?" "No." Elise studied her for so long that Leela felt sweat gather beneath her arms. Then her mother smiled. "Good." After dinner, Leela went upstairs and pretended to sleep. She lay still for hours, eyes open, waiting for the house to settle into night. Her father came home around 10. She heard his truck cough into the driveway. She heard the back door open. Heavy boots, her mother's low voice, her father grunting, the refrigerator door, a bottle cap dropping into the trash. Then whispers, angry ones. Leela slid from bed and opened her door a crack. The voices rose from the kitchen. "You fed him too much," her father said. "He is getting weaker." "That is the point." "No," Elise snapped, and Leela had never heard her mother speak that way. "Not yet." Carl laughed, a thick, wet sound. "You always were soft." I said not yet. A chair scraped. Leela's father said something she could not hear. Then her mother said very clearly, she heard him. Silence. The hair on Leela's arms lifted. Carl's voice came lower. What did she hear? "She thinks it is a puppy." Another silence. Then her father laughed. This time it was not thick. It was pleased. Leela backed away from the door and climbed into bed shaking. Much later, after the house finally went still, she took the key from under her pillow and crept downstairs. Every stair complained under her feet. She knew the trick was to step near the wall, where the boards were less loud. She moved slowly, one hand on the railing, the other gripping the red string so tightly it left a mark across her palm. The downstairs hallway smelled of ashes from her father's cigarettes and lemon polish from her mother's cleaning. The kitchen was dark, except for moonlight smeared across the linoleum. The basement door waited. Leela approached it. Her breath came fast. The house seemed to hold its own. She reached up, standing on her toes, and slid the key into the deadbolt. It fit. For a moment, she almost stopped. She thought of her mother's cold fingers, the cookie on the napkin, the whisper against her ear. Never go down there. Then, from the other side of the door, something whimpered. Leela turned the key. The deadbolt clicked. The sound was small, but in the sleeping house, it seemed impossibly loud. She froze. No footsteps came. No door opened upstairs. Leela wrapped her fingers around the basement knob. It was damp. She turned it. The door opened inward. A breath of basement air rolled over her. It was worse than the vent. The smell was thick and alive. Wet concrete, mold, urine, rust, old meat, something sour beneath it all, like sickness left in a covered jar. Leela gagged and pressed her sleeve to her nose. The stairs descended into blackness. A string hung from the ceiling just beyond the doorway, but Leela could not reach it from where she stood. She had to step down onto the first stair, then the second. The wood bowed under her weight. Her bare feet felt grit and dust. She reached for the string. Her fingers brushed it. Something below shifted. Leela grabbed the string and pulled. A single bulb snapped on at the bottom of the stairs. The light was weak, yellow, and swinging. It did not fill the basement so much as reveal pieces of it. Concrete walls, sweating with damp. Shelves stacked with jars. A workbench covered in tools. A drain in the floor, darkened by a brown ring. Old curtains hanging from a wire, dividing the far corner from the rest of the room. The curtains moved. Leela held the banister. "Puppy," she whispered. There was no answer. Then came the sound. From behind the curtains, Leela took another step. The basement seemed bigger than it should have been. The ceiling was low, crossed with pipes wrapped in gray cloth. Cobwebs sagged between them, heavy with dust. Along one wall stood a freezer humming softly, its lid secured with a chain and padlock. Beside it, a row of metal buckets gave off a sharp chemical stink. On the workbench, Leela saw things she did not understand at first. Leather belts, a stained towel, pliers, a baby bottle with its rubber nipple chewed almost through, several small teeth laid in a saucer. She looked away. The curtain shifted again. A whisper came from behind it. "Ma." Leela's eyes filled with tears. She moved toward the curtain. With each step, the smell grew stronger. Her toes stuck slightly to patches on the concrete. She did not look down. She did not want to know. "Are you hurt?" she whispered. The thing behind the curtain breathed. Not like a dog, like a person trying not to cry. Leela reached for the fabric. The curtain was stiff in places. She pulled it aside. At first, her mind refused to understand what she was seeing. There was a mattress on the floor, not a bed. Just a thin, filthy mattress, dark with stains, pushed against the wall beneath a small boarded window. A chain ran from a metal ring in the concrete to something crouched in the corner. The shape was small, human small, boy small. He was naked, except for a gray shirt so torn and filthy that it looked grown into him. His knees were pulled up to his chest. His skin had the pale, waxy color of mushrooms. Dirt clung in the hollows of his ribs. His hair had been cut in uneven patches close to the scalp, leaving scabbed lines where the scissors had bitten too deep. His face was the worst part. One eye was swollen shut, sealed in purple folds. The other stared at Leela, enormous and wet and shining in the yellow light. His nose bent sideways. His lips were split and puffed. Something had happened to his mouth, something that made his words collapse into those small, helpless sounds. Leela could not move. The boy lifted one hand. 3 fingers opened. The other 2 did not. Around his wrist was a raw circle where rope or wire had once been. His fingernails were broken down to dark crescents. When he tried to crawl toward her, the chain at his ankle dragged across the floor. Leela made a sound in her throat. The boy flinched. Then he pressed his hand to his chest. "Tom," he whispered, or tried to whisper. Leela's tears spilled over. "You're not a puppy." The boy shook his head once. A thin string of saliva slipped from his ruined mouth. "Help," he breathed. The word was barely a word, but Leela understood. Behind her, the stairs creaked. The basement light swung. Leela turned. Her mother stood halfway down the stairs. She wore her blue robe. Her hair hung loose around her face. In one hand, she held the cookie tin. In the other, she held the long kitchen knife. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Elise sighed. "Oh, Leela." The boy in the corner began to tremble. Leela backed toward him without thinking. Her mother came down another step. "You took the key." Leela shook her head, crying harder. "I thought he was a puppy." "I told you there was no puppy. He's a boy." Elise smiled sadly. "Yes. Why is he here?" Her mother reached the bottom of the stairs. The bulb swung above her, making her eyes flash bright and dark. Bright and dark. Because he needed a home. The boy made a choking sound. Elise glanced at him. "Quiet." He went still. Leela could smell her mother's perfume under the basement stink. Lavender, soap, powder. It was somehow worse than the smell of rot. "Mommy," Leela whispered, "we have to call someone." Elise looked genuinely puzzled. "Call who?" "The police." Her mother laughed softly. "Oh, baby." She set the cookie tin on the workbench. "Do you know what police do to families? They tear them apart. They take little girls away from their mothers." "No, they don't." "Yes," Elise said, "they do." The boy's open eye rolled toward Leela. His lips moved. "Run." Elise saw it. Her face hardened. "I said quiet." She crossed the basement and struck him with the back of her hand. The sound was flat and terrible. The boy collapsed sideways on the mattress. Leela screamed. At once, Elise turned back, eyes wide. "Do not scream." Leela screamed again. Her mother moved faster than Leela thought a grown person could move. One moment, she was across the basement. The next, she had Leela by both shoulders, shaking her so hard her teeth clicked. "Do not scream down here," Elise hissed. "Your father is sleeping." Leela sobbed. "You hurt him." "He was already hurt when he came to us." "No, he was," Elise whispered. "He was dirty. He was unwanted. He was wandering by the road like a stray thing. Your father found him." Leela looked at the boy. He lay curled, trembling, the chain twitching with every breath. "He has parents," she said. Elise's smile returned, gentle and awful. "Everyone has parents somewhere." The basement ceiling creaked above them. Carl Mayhew's voice called from the kitchen. "Elise." Her mother closed her eyes. For the first time, Leela saw fear on her face. Not fear of the boy, not fear of the basement, fear of him. Elise pressed one finger to Leela's lips. Not a sound. Carl's boots crossed the kitchen. The basement door opened wider. He appeared at the top of the stairs, shirtless, his thick arms pale and hairy, his face swollen from sleep. His eyes moved from Elise to Leela, to the curtain pulled aside. For a few seconds he stared. Then he smiled. "Well," he said, "look what got loose upstairs." Leela's mother tightened her grip. "I have it handled." Carl came down slowly. Each step groaned. "You said she hurt him." "She did." "You said you fixed it." "I tried." He reached the basement floor. The smell of cigarettes and sweat rolled off him. Leela had always been afraid of her father in the quiet way children fear storms. Not because the storm hates them, but because it can destroy the whole house without meaning to. Now she understood that storms were kinder. Storms did not smile. Carl crouched in front of her. His knees cracked. "You like puppies, little mouse." Leela could not speak. He reached out and pinched her cheek hard enough to hurt. "Answer me." "Yes," Leela whispered. He nodded toward the boy. "That there is what happens when puppies bite." The boy whimpered. Carl's smile widened. "See, still making noise." Elise said, "Carl, please." He stood. "We should have done this weeks ago." "No." She saw him. "She is a child. She talks. She won't." Carl looked at Leela. "Won't you?" Leela shook her head frantically. "I won't tell, I promise." Her father studied her. Then he looked at Elise. "You hear that? A promise." He walked to the workbench and picked up the pliers. The boy began to crawl backward, though there was nowhere to go. Elise stepped between Carl and the mattress. "No." Carl's face changed. It went empty. "Move." I said no. The slap he gave her was so hard she fell against the shelves. Jars rattled. One dropped and burst on the floor, spilling cloudy liquid and something small and gray that rolled beneath the freezer. Leela screamed again. Carl turned. Elise, on the floor, lifted one hand. "Leela," she gasped, "run." And Leela did. She ran for the stairs. Carl lunged, but missed, catching only the back of her nightgown. The fabric ripped. Leela scrambled upward on hands and feet, sobbing, slipping on dust, banging her knee against a step, so hard pain flashed white in her head. Behind her, Carl roared. She reached the kitchen. The basement door was open. The house seemed too bright, too ordinary. Chairs, table, sink, crayon drawings on the refrigerator, the cookie on the counter from dinner, half eaten. Leela ran for the back door. It was locked. Her fingers fumbled with the latch. Behind her, something crashed in the basement. Her mother screamed. Not like before. Not angry. Not warning. A true scream. Leela got the lock open and flung the door wide. Cold night air hit her face. She ran barefoot into the yard. Rain soaked the grass. Mud sucked at her feet. The woods beyond the house were black and waiting. She did not run toward the road. That was the mistake. The road had lights, neighbors, mailboxes, houses where people slept behind curtains. But Leela was 7, and the road seemed far, and the woods seemed close, and behind her, her father was coming. So she ran into the trees. Branches slapped her face. Thorns tore her legs. The moon was hidden behind clouds, and the forest was full of wet leaves that made every step uncertain. She ran until her lungs burned, and the house disappeared behind her. Then she stopped. She crouched behind a fallen log, shaking so violently her teeth knocked together. For a while, she heard nothing but rain. Then, far away, her father called her name. Leela. His voice drifted between the trees. Sweet, playful, little mouse. She clamped both hands over her mouth. More footsteps. Not just one set. Her mother was calling too. Leela, please, come back. Her voice sounded broken. Come back before he finds you. Leela did not move. The rain thickened. The woods filled with small movements. Drops falling from leaves. Twigs settling. Night animals fleeing the sound of human anger. Then a flashlight beam cut through the dark. It swept across the trees, touched the log, moved away. Carl's boots squelched in the mud. I'm not mad, he called. Leela squeezed her eyes shut. I just want to talk. Another beam appeared behind him. Elise. Carl, she said, let me find her. You had your chance. She is my daughter. She is a mouth with legs. Please. A sound followed that Leela knew, even without seeing. A fist hitting flesh. Her mother fell with a wet cry. The flashlight beam spun across the trees and vanished into leaves. Carl sighed. You always make me do the ugly part. Leela did not remember deciding to move. One moment she was behind the log. The next she was crawling backward through mud, slow as a beetle, trying not to snap twigs. Her foot found a hollow. Water filled her pajama cuff. She kept moving. Then a hand clamped around her ankle. She screamed into her palms. Carl dragged her out from behind the log. There she is. Leela kicked and twisted. Her nails clawed mud. Her fingers found a stone and she grabbed it, swinging blindly. It struck his forehead with a dull crack. He cursed and dropped her. Leela ran. This time, she ran toward the road. She saw it through the trees, a pale line beneath the rain. Beyond it, a porch light glowed at the Kendrick house. The nearest neighbors, an elderly couple who gave out caramel apples every Halloween. Leela burst from the woods and stumbled into the ditch. Her foot slid on wet leaves. She fell hard, chin striking gravel. Blood filled her mouth. The Kendrick porch light was still on. She crawled toward it. A car passed at the far end of the road, tires hissing. Leela tried to scream, but only a wet gurgle came out. She stood. A hand grabbed her hair and yanked her backward. Carl carried her home over his shoulder. She fought until she had no strength left. Rain ran down her face. The porch light at the Kendrick house grew smaller and smaller until the trees hid it. When they reached the house, the back door stood open. The kitchen was lit. Elise sat at the table, holding a dish towel to her split lip. One eye was swelling. When she saw Leela, she stood so quickly the chair fell. Carl, don't. He dropped Leela onto the floor. Pain shot through her hip. She tried to leave, he said. She was scared. She hurt me. She is 7. He wiped blood from his forehead and looked at it on his fingers. Then he laughed. Maybe she has more bite than the basement boy. At the sound of that, something below them whimpered. Not the boy's usual sound. This was weaker. A thread nearly snapped. Leela looked at the basement door. It stood open. Elise followed her gaze. Her face crumpled. Leela, she said softly, I'm sorry. That was when Leela understood something worse than fear. Her mother was sorry, but sorry did not open doors. Sorry did not call police. Sorry did not save the boy. Sorry only sat at the kitchen table with a bleeding mouth and waited for the worst thing to happen. Carl took Leela by the arm and dragged her to the basement. She kicked at the threshold, trying to catch the doorframe. But he pried her fingers loose one by one. Her mother sobbed behind them. The stairs descended. The basement light still swung. The boy on the mattress turned his head when they entered. His good eye found Leela. There was recognition there, and grief. Carl threw Leela onto the concrete beside the mattress. The impact knocked the air from her. Now, he said, breathing hard, you 2 puppies can keep each other company. Elise appeared at the bottom of the stairs. No, she whispered. Carl picked up the chain from the floor. There was another cuff attached to it, one Leela had not noticed before, hidden beneath a pile of rags. Small, child-sized. Her mother stepped forward. Carl, I swear to God. He turned on her with such sudden violence that she stopped. You swear what? Elise shook. Leela saw the knife on the floor near the shelves, dropped during the struggle. Her mother saw it too. For 1 second, their eyes met. Elise moved. Carl moved faster. He caught her wrist before she reached the knife and twisted. Something snapped. Elise screamed. The sound filled the basement and made the boy press his face into the mattress. Carl dragged his wife to the workbench and slammed her head against it. Once, twice, the third time she went quiet. Leela did not scream anymore. Something inside her had gone very far away. Carl stood over Elise, panting. Then he looked at Leela. There, he said, no more interruptions. He fastened the cuff around her ankle. The metal was icy. It clicked shut. The sound was small. Final. Carl crouched and took Leela's chin in his bloody fingers. You wanted to see the puppy, he said. Now you can learn to sound like one. Then he went upstairs. The basement door closed. The deadbolt slid into place. Darkness followed when he pulled the chain for the light. For a long time, Leela could not move. She heard her own breathing. She heard water dripping somewhere near the drain. She heard the boy beside her, making tiny broken sounds. At last, something touched her hand. She flinched. It was his fingers. 3 of them. He patted the concrete between them. Once, twice, like comfort. Leela began to cry. I'm sorry, she whispered. The boy answered with the only sound he had left. Hours passed, or days. Time in the basement did not move like time upstairs. There was no sun, except for a gray suggestion of it through the boarded window when morning came. There were no clocks, only hunger, thirst, cold, and the footsteps above. Carl came down once the next day. He brought a bowl of water and 2 slices of bread gone hard at the edges. Elise did not come. Leela asked where her mother was. Carl smiled. Resting. The boy would not look at him. Carl set the bowl just far enough away that the chain forced them to crawl. Leela understood. He wanted them to crawl. She did not at first. Her throat burned, her lips cracked. She waited until he left. Then she crawled. The water tasted like metal. The boy drank after her, shaking so badly that most of it spilled down his chest. What happened to you? Leela whispered. He blinked slowly. It took him a long time to answer. Road, he breathed. His voice was almost nothing. Truck. Leela waited. Manned. My dad. The boy closed his good eye. A tear slid through the dirt on his cheek. Home, he whispered. You want to go home? He nodded. What's your name, Tom? His mouth trembled. Tommy. Leela repeated it softly. Tommy. His face changed at the sound of his name. For a moment, he was not a thing in a basement. He was a boy. A boy who had once had a bed, a kitchen, maybe a mother who packed his lunch and told him to brush his teeth. A boy who had walked near the road and never come back. Above them, footsteps crossed the kitchen. Leela and Tommy fell silent. Days became a pattern of cruelty. Carl fed them just enough to keep them breathing. Sometimes he came down drunk and made them answer questions. Sometimes he brought objects from upstairs and placed them in front of Leela. her hair ribbon, her school shoe, her stuffed rabbit with one button eye. He asked if she missed them. He asked if she had learned her lesson. Sometimes he opened the freezer. Leela never saw what was inside clearly, but the smell changed when he lifted the lid. A freezing, rotten smell that made Tommy curl into himself and shake. Once, when Carl was upstairs, Leela found a loose nail beneath the mattress. It was rusted and bent. She hid it in the hem of her nightgown. At night, if night still existed, she worked it against the lock on her cuff. She had no idea what she was doing. She only knew that metal sometimes listened if you begged long enough. Tommy watched her. When her fingers bled, he tore a strip from his shirt and wrapped them. "Thank you," she whispered. He touched his chest. "Home," he said. "I know." She did not know if home still existed for either of them. After a while, the basement began to speak in its own language. The pipes clicked, the freezer hummed, the boards overhead groaned with Carl's weight. Mice moved inside the walls. The drain gurgled, even when no water ran. Sometimes, very late, Leela heard her mother. Not footsteps, not speech, just a faint tapping from somewhere above. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. Pause. At first, Leela thought it was a branch against the window. Then she heard it from directly overhead. The kitchen floor. Tap, tap, tap. Tommy heard it too. He stared up with his one good eye. On the 3rd night, Leela tapped back with the nail. Once, twice, 3 times. The tapping above stopped. Then came a sound like someone crying through a wall. "Mommy," Leela whispered. No answer. The next time Carl came down, Elise was with him, but not the Elise Leela knew. Her mother's hair had been cut short and uneven. One arm hung in a sling made from a dish towel. Her face was mottled yellow and purple. She moved slowly, as if every step hurt. In her good hand, she carried a plate. Cookies, chocolate ones. Leela stared. Elise knelt as far from Carl as she could and held one out. "I made them for you." Leela did not take it. Her mother's eyes filled. "Please, baby." Carl leaned against the workbench, arms folded. "Take the cookie." Leela took it. It was warm. That made it worse. The house had continued above them. The oven had heated. Flour had been poured. Sugar had been measured. Cookies had baked while 2 children were chained in the dark. Leela crushed it in her fist. Elise flinched. Carl laughed. "That's my girl." Her mother whispered, "I can get you out." Carl stopped laughing. The basement went very still. Elise did not look at him. "Tonight," she said quickly, "when he sleeps, I can get the key." Carl crossed the room and grabbed her by the back of the neck. Leela screamed, "No." He forced Elise to her knees. "What was that?" Elise's face twisted. "I said I can get her out." Carl's eyes shone. "Can you?" "Yes." He looked at Leela. "Do you hear that? Mommy has a plan. He reached into his pocket and took out the basement key on its red string. Then he put it in his mouth and swallowed it. Elise made a sound like she had been stabbed. Carl patted his stomach. They're safe. That night, he did not go upstairs for a long time. Leela closed her eyes when the noises began. She held Tommy's hand and squeezed until he squeezed back. When Carl finally left, Elise did not move. She lay near the workbench, breathing in shallow rattles. Mommy, Leela whispered. Elise opened one eye. Don't look at me. I'm scared. I know. Is there another key? Her mother's lips trembled. The old coal chute. What? Behind the shelves. Boards are rotten. Leela's heart began to pound. Can I fit? Elise closed her eye. Maybe. Can Tommy? No answer. Mommy. Elise wept silently. Leela understood. Maybe Leela could fit. Tommy could not. The nail in her hem felt suddenly heavy as a stone. After Carl went upstairs and the house grew still, Leela crawled to the shelves. Her chain reached only halfway. She stretched until the cuff cut her ankle. Not far enough. Tommy watched. Then he crawled to his side of the mattress and pulled at his own chain. The ring in the wall shifted slightly. He had been working it loose, maybe for weeks, maybe since before she found him. Tommy, Leela breathed. He pressed both feet against the wall and pulled. The chain tightened. His face went white with pain. The ring moved another fraction. Leela grabbed his arm. Stop, you're hurting yourself. He looked at her. Home, he whispered. Then he pulled again. The ring tore free with a shriek of metal and concrete. The sound was enormous. Both children froze. Above them, a chair scraped. Carl, go, Tommy rasped. Leela grabbed the nail and jammed it into her cuff lock. Her hands shook too hard. Footsteps crossed the kitchen. Tommy crawled to her and took the nail. His broken fingers worked slowly, clumsily, desperately. The basement door opened. Light spilled down the stairs. Carl's voice drifted into the dark. What are my puppies doing? The cuff clicked open. Leela was free. Tommy shoved her toward the shelves. Go. I won't leave you. He made a sound that might have been a laugh if it had belonged to someone else. Go. Carl reached the bottom of the stairs. Leela scrambled behind the shelves. There, hidden beneath old paint cans and a rolled carpet, she saw the coal chute. A square of wood bolted over a slanted tunnel in the wall. The lower board was soft with rot. She kicked. It cracked. Carl shouted. Tommy hurled himself at Carl's legs. The two of them went down hard. Leela kicked again. The board split. Cold air rushed in. Outside air. Wet leaves. Freedom. Behind her, Carl roared and struck Tommy. Leela looked back. Tommy was on the floor. Carl stood over him. Their eyes met across the basement. Tommy's good eye was calm. Go, it said. Leela crawled into the chute. Splinters tore her arms. Rusted nails scraped her back. The tunnel was so tight she could not lift her head. Dirt filled her mouth. She clawed upward toward a thin square of gray night. Behind her, Carl bellowed her name. A hand grabbed her ankle. She screamed and kicked. His fingers slipped. She kicked again and felt her heel strike something soft. Carl cursed. Leela pulled herself forward. The outside cover gave way beneath her shoulder, and she spilled into weeds beside the house. Rain hit her face. She stood swaying. The woods waited to the left. The road waited to the right. This time she ran to the road. She ran past the mailbox, past the ditch, past the place where Carl had caught her. The Kendrick porch light glowed ahead. Her legs buckled halfway up their walk. She crawled the rest. Her fist struck the door once. Twice. It opened. Mrs. Kendrick stood there in a pink robe, gray hair in curlers, her eyes going wide as she saw the filthy child on her porch. "Good Lord," she whispered. Leela tried to speak. Only one word came out. "Basement." Then the world folded shut. When she woke, she was in a hospital. White ceiling, clean sheets, a tube taped to her hand. A woman in a blue uniform sat beside the bed. Not her mother, a police officer. Leela began to cry. The officer leaned forward. "You're safe now." Leela tried to sit up. "Tommy." The officer's expression changed. "What did you say?" "The boy in the basement, Tommy." The officer looked toward the door. A man in a brown suit stepped in. His face was kind, but tired. The face of someone who had seen too many rooms like that basement and still had to go home afterward. "We found the basement," he said gently. Leela's fingers gripped the sheet. "Tommy." The man did not answer quickly enough. Leela knew. Children always know when adults are arranging words to make pain smaller. "He was there," the man said. "Is he okay?" The officer looked away. The man sat beside the bed. "He helped you get out." Leela shook her head. "No, is he okay?" "I'm sorry." The words entered her slowly, not as meaning, as cold. Leela turned her face to the wall. "What about my mommy?" The man exhaled. "We found your mother. Is she resting?" The question came out before Leela could stop it. The man closed his eyes for a moment. "Yes," he said, "she is resting." Carl Mayhew was not found in the house. The police searched the basement, the woods, the shed, the old well behind the property. They found blood in the kitchen, blood on the stairs, blood on the workbench. They found photographs in a shoebox behind the furnace, most too damaged or terrible to show on the news. They found children's shoes buried beneath the lilacs. But Carl was gone. Some said he fled into the woods and died there. Some said he caught a freight train south. Some said Elise Mayhew, before she died, had injured him badly enough that he crawled somewhere dark and never came out. Leela knew better. For months afterward, she lived with the Kendricks. They were kind. They gave her warm food, clean clothes, night lights, and a room on the second floor with yellow curtains. They never locked doors unless she asked them to. They never served meatloaf. They never kept cookies in blue tins. But kindness did not erase the basement. At night, Leela heard sounds in the walls. Pipes, mice, wind. Sometimes she woke to the soft scrape of metal on concrete and found her own hands twisted in the sheets, searching for a chain. She spoke to doctors. She spoke to police. She spoke to a woman with silver glasses who asked her to draw what she remembered. Leela drew the basement door. She drew the mattress. She drew Tommy's eye. She drew the cookie tin again and again until the woman gently took the crayons away. A year passed. Then, too, the Mayhew house remained empty. No one bought it. No one tore it down. It sat at the edge of town, with plywood over the windows and weeds swallowing the porch. Teenagers dared one another to touch the front door. Dogs would not go near it. Birds avoided the roof. Leela grew taller. Her bruises faded. Her hair was cut short because she could not bear having anyone brush it. The town tried to forget, but the house did not. On Leela's 10th birthday, Mrs. Kendrick baked a cake with pink frosting. Mr. Kendrick gave her a new bicycle. There were balloons in the kitchen and a card from the police officer who had sat beside her hospital bed. Leela smiled when she was supposed to. She blew out the candles. She opened presents. That night, after the Kendricks went to sleep, she heard a sound through the vent in her new room. A whimper, soft, wet, impossible. Leela sat up. Her room was dark, except for the moonlight on the yellow curtains. The sound came again. Her body went cold. She got out of bed and crawled to the vent. The smell rose before she reached it. Damp stone, old pennies, rotten milk, and underneath it, lavender. Leela covered her mouth. From deep inside the vent, a voice whispered, "Not Tommy, not her mother, her father, little mouse." The next morning, the Kendricks found her bed empty. The window was closed. The door was locked from the inside. There were muddy footprints on the carpet, but they did not lead in from the hall or out to the window. They began at the vent, small at first, child-sized, then larger, boot-sized. The police searched for weeks. They found no sign of Leela in the Kendricks' house, in the woods, or on the road. They reopened the Mayhew house. They tore out walls, dug up the basement floor, drained the old well. Nothing. Only one thing had changed. In the basement of the Mayhew house, behind the shelves, where the coal chute had once been, someone had nailed a fresh board over the opening from the inside. On that board, scratched deep into the wood, were 2 words, "Good girl." Years later, when the house finally burned, people gathered in the road and watched the flames climb through the broken windows. The fire took the porch first, then the roof, then the kitchen where Elise Mayhew had once served cookies to her daughter and told her never to go downstairs. The basement burned last. Firefighters said that was strange. Basements usually fill with smoke and water. They do not burn from within, but this one did. Blue flames crawled along the foundation. The concrete cracked. The old freezer burst open with a sound like a scream. Neighbors covered their faces against the smell, a smell so foul that even the rain could not beat it down. As the house collapsed, someone in the crowd heard a child crying. Then another, not screams, whimpers, soft, pleading, almost animal sounds rising from beneath the ground. The firefighters denied it afterward. The police denied it too. The town did what towns do with things too terrible to hold. It buried them under years, under gossip, under new roads and fresh paint, and different families moving into different houses. But children on Blackpine Lane still know not to chase strange sounds. They know not to follow whimpers into cellars. They know that sometimes a house can learn a voice, and sometimes darkness can wear the shape of something you want to save. And if you ever find yourself alone at night, in a quiet kitchen, with rain tapping at the windows and the floorboards breathing under your feet, listen carefully. You may hear it, a puppy crying somewhere below, a sad, lonely sound, a sound that makes you want to open the door. Do not take the key. Do not pull the string. Do not go down, because the thing in the basement may not be a puppy. It may be a boy. It may be a memory. It may be something that was once human and has waited a very long time for someone kind enough, small enough, and foolish enough to come close. And if a woman with pale hair gives you a cookie and tells you there is nothing downstairs, believe only one part of what she says. There is no puppy. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe, leave a comment, and like the video for more. Good night.
Whispers of a love so true, painting dreams of me and you. And I'll hold you close in this moment so